RIO Podcast.
All right. Welcome to the initial episode of the Write It Out Podcast. My name's Clayton. I got the expert trail dog Jackson, and together we are the face of Write It Out. You may be asking yourself, what is Write It Out? Well, let me tell you. So Write It Out is one part of a larger organization called Veterans Adventure Group. Veterans Adventure Group is a 501c3 nonprofit that seeks to empower veterans through extreme sports. You know, veterans have a hard time when they transition from active service back into the civilian community. They lose that sense of team camaraderie, and we want to build those extreme bonds through extreme experiences. Veterans Adventure Group is broken down into three aspects: land, air, and sea. You can probably venture to guess what each aspect of those extreme activities would be in land, air, and sea. Land is, of course, Write It Out with mountain biking. We have a mountaineering team, a caving team, a climbing team. Air, we got some wind sports teams, skydiving, and sea, we've got scuba diving, other aquatic sports like kite surfing, and heck, we even got a drag racing team. How cool is that? All right, so Write It Out. How I envision this podcast to work is I go out, I ride mountain bikes with veterans. You know, I get to build relationships with these guys and gals and get to know them a little bit. We start opening up to each other, and, you know, we share some stories, good times, bad times. And I would like to have a veteran come on here and share their experiences. You know, share what useful tools they had when transitioning from active duty service back into the civilian community, how they discovered mountain biking, and the benefits they have reaped since using mountain biking. You know, for me personally, I've been in since '97. I had a couple periods of where I got out. I was in the Marines, got out in June of 2001, got recalled after 9/11, and then got out in 2004. So I've tried to do that civilian transition, and I'll tell you, it's not easy. And the more tools we can give our veterans to be successful on the outside, the better. And, you know, I'm still active duty now. I retire in less than 2 years. But while I've been on active duty, I've discovered mountain biking, and it's changed my life exponentially. I am far from the same angry person I was 5 years ago, and it's all 99.9% in part to mountain biking. And back in 2015, I was like, man, this mountain biking is great. Downhill, oh, it's the best. I need to share this with as many active duty military and veterans as I can to help them deal with whatever stresses they may face. Because, you know, every person in the military, whether they've deployed 1,000 times or 0 times, they've got a story and they have their own brand of stress they've had to deal with. And I would like to help them deal with those, you know, repressed stresses through mountain biking, because it's worked for me, and I know I'm not an anomaly. So what better way to kick off the Write It Out podcast by sharing my story and the benefits I've reaped through mountain biking. So I guess we could say that my story starts way back in 1997. I joined the Marines and got stationed in Camp Pendleton, California. And I think it was 98 or 99, whenever the X Games was in Oceanside, California, right out there by Camp Pendleton. I saw these guys doing these crazy tricks on BMX bikes, and I was drawn to that, and I wanted to do that. Knew nothing about it. I had some money in my bank account, so I went down to the local bike shop there in Oceanside, bought me a BMX bike, and we could say that my journey began there. I slowly progressed through trying to learn flatland, got into riding street, and by the time I got out of the Marines in June of 2001, I was at riding street. I didn't have a place to really go after I got out, so I moved back in with my dad, who moved from Montana to Missouri. And one night, cold night in Quincy, Illinois, I was riding around town, and these group of guys came up like, "Oh, you ride bikes?" And I was like, "Well, obviously I'm on a bike." Like, "Oh, cool, we just never seen you around. We're like the local BMX guys." So I linked up with them. We ended up building like this indoor skate park or bike park in Quincy, Illinois. And a couple of those guys went off to become pretty well-known BMXers, like street-style BMXers or ramp riders. And I got recalled back into the military shortly after, 9/11 happened. And I think by that December, I was on recall orders and headed to Hawaii for 2 years. And the 2 years in Hawaii, I rode street BMX nearly every day. Rode with all the local guys there in Oahu. And, got out from that 2-year tour in Hawaii. And I was, out of the Marines for a second time. Stayed living in SoCal. And used to ride Oceanside Skate Park, the old skate park that no longer exists. And met a lot of great friends. Quite a few of them I still have to this day. And, so, I just grew up and progressed through bicycling with BMX, with like street, park, and stuff like that. That there's always that little adrenaline rush there. I did 2 years living in California as a civilian, trying to go to college, cleaning swimming pools for a job, and just wasn't having a good time. It was a pretty hard time of my life. So I was like, well, go back in the military. So I decided to join the Army. I know, made the switch from Marine Corps to Army. But the Marines didn't have, they weren't willing to work with me. I was already trained as an infantryman. And like, yeah, you can go back in, you can go right back into the grunts, and we'll have you deployed to Afghanistan in 6 months, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, whoa. I'm not doing too hot after getting out initially with no real job experience. So I want a technical skill. And the recruiter's like, go join the Army. They'll let you be all you can be. So I went talk to the Army recruiter. He came at me with a healthcare specialist. Later turned out that its other name was combat medic, and I was like, man, that's what I want to do, combat medic. I want to be on the battlefield and do medicine, and plus I got my EMT basic out of it, so I was like, well, that's a technical skill. Let's go for that. So flash to bang, from walking in that recruiter's office to MEPS to standing in processing for healthcare specialist AIT was less than 2 weeks. So, go through AIT, all that fun medic stuff. Get stationed at Fort Bragg with 16th Military Police Brigade. We did our 15-month tour in Iraq. Hopped around central Iraq, around Baghdad, Mahmudiyah, Lutefiya, Yusufia. Didn't get in any like real direct firefights, but just a lot of weird, crazy stuff happened. Big, huge vehicle-borne IED that blew up all these locals while they were making their pilgrimage to Hajj. And I to this day guess it probably killed around 100, maybe more. We were the first military unit there. It was a checkpoint, like a Iraqi police checkpoint. And we were the first U.S. military unit there. And I was the first medic on scene. And it was hectic. I went through all of the aid bags in our gun trucks and my aid bag probably within the first 5-10 minutes. And I mean, there was just bodies, people in various sorts of dismemberment, people on fire, just everywhere. It was freaking crazy. I could probably go forever about that story, just the crazy stuff that went on. But that was my initial combat experience, kind of a baptism by fire. I was with that MP unit, that whole 15-month tour. While in Iraq, I re-enlisted to be a flight medic. So we get back from our deployment. I get thrown up in headquarters of 16th Military Police Brigade. Shortly, probably 6 months after getting back from our Iraq deployment, I get stationed in Honduras. So I go to flight medic school, get stationed in Honduras. I'm stationed in Honduras for 2 years, working as a flight medic. Did some stuff there. It was mainly like patient transfers, like people get hurt there on our little base, and we would medevac them to the capital. Did some search and rescue stuff. It's hard to explain. Like, again, I could go way into detail about all the ups and downs of being stationed there. That's when I wanted to change my life and join the special operations community as a medic. So I put in a request to go to the special operations medic course. My request got accepted, and then so I go back to Fort Bragg to the special operations medic course in 2010. I get done with that roughly a year or so later, and get stationed up in Fort Lewis, Washington with 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment as a medic. And that's where the mountain biking really picks up. Like the story really takes off from there. I'm on my first deployment, and I'm on what at the time was Promotive. I think it's called Expert Voice now. Diamondback had a their pro deal, and I got me a Diamondback Scapegoat, full Fox, Shimano Saint setup for a pretty good price. So I ordered that bike, and I get back from that deployment, and it just kind of sits in my garage until the beginning of spring. I decided to pull it out of the box, build it up, and go try to find out what mountain biking's all about. And I think probably the first mountain bike trail I ever rode in Washington was Green Line 6 out in Capitol Forest. I parked all the way at the bottom of Green Line 6 and pedaled all the way to the top of the mountain and rode back down and was absolutely exhausted. I was like, how can this be fun? How can people find this enjoyable? And then I saw two trucks pull up. One truck was full of mountain bikes and full of people high-fiving and cheering. And the other truck was just a guy in it. He gets out. He gets in the other truck full of people cheering, and they all take off, leaving that one truck behind. I'm like, well, that's how you do it. You get a group of friends, and you shuttle. So then I realized that Angry Clayton had to come out of his angry shell and start meeting people and getting into this mountain bike thing. So it only progressed from there. Met a lot of really cool people. Friend Matt, I met him at Dookie Hill, and he took me to Whistler for my first time. Took me on pretty much all of my initial downhill experiences, and I just really haven't looked back since then. I still try to link up with Matt every year, and we try to go to Whistler and just relive that connection. He's just a civilian guy that we probably have had nothing in common other than bikes, and he's become one of my best friends. And that's what this is about. That's what Ride It Out is about. It's about veterans branching out and coming out of that little enclosed shell and meeting people through the physical activity of mountain biking and getting friends and getting that team back, that camaraderie. It's a kind of a crazy comparison, but being in a firefight and say the firefight's over and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I just survived that. and I can't believe all of my friends just survived that. It's the same, but not the same feeling as hitting some really steep downhill trail where you're on the ride of your life and you get to the bottom and you make it and all your friends make it. And everyone is just stoked beyond belief, hooting and hollering the whole time. You know, it's that sense of camaraderie and that sense of team that I find is similar from the military life to mountain biking life. And through Ride It Out, I want to share that with veterans. And you know, like, you could be a super badass experienced mountain biker and a veteran, and you know, let's go ride. You know, I've got vets I ride with that are way better than me that compete at the pro level, and we get out, we have fun, and we ride bikes. And I've got vets or active duty guys that have very little mountain bike experience, and I've got no problem kicking with you down the trail. You know, I'll ride at your pace, and you know, I'll get you some good GoPro footage while it's going. I'll run my GoPro and we'll have a good time. I'll give you what little bit of coaching and techniques I can give, and we'll just go out and get rad. That's what it's all about, getting rad on bikes. All right, I got off on a bit of a tangent there about you know, what Ride It Out is about, and kind of got off track on kind of my history. So I'm stationed in Washington until 2015, like late 2015, and then I moved to Fort Campbell, Kentucky, and I was bummed about getting stationed in Fort Campbell, Kentucky. I was going from mountain bike heaven to mountain bike nothing. So I was still going to try to make the most of it, so I was doing some, you know, Google video, like looking on YouTube and Google and trying to find out what's there, and looked like that Knoxville and Chattanooga had some good stuff to ride. Really wasn't much around Nashville. So like, I'm probably at Fort Campbell 3 days, and this guy reaches out to me on a Nashville mountain bike forum, says, hey, you know, we ride downhill down at this place called Trials Training Center outside of Chattanooga. I'm heading down there this weekend if you want to go. You know, it's like December. It's October, November, December time frame. I just remember it's cold. So we get the, like, I'm like, hell yeah, let's go. So I meet him down in Nashville, and we load up in his truck. A couple hour drive later, we're in Chattanooga, and then I'm sending it down some steep, loose, crazy East Coast downhill that is like nothing you've ever seen or ever rode. So if you want to experience some crazy stuff, go ride TTC or Windrock. Those two places really made me respect steep technical riding, and it's probably what I seek out most whenever I go ride. Sure, I'm all about the flow trails and hitting the big bike park laps and hitting the big jumps. There's something, you know, about that, but I get the same flow state in my brain with a flow trail as I do in a steep technical trail. It's two different styles of riding, but you know, just that adrenaline rush and your brain just firing on all cylinders, and like you and your bike are kind of melded together as one. Yeah, Windrock and Trials Training Center really made me appreciate and seek out technical riding. So I was stationed in Fort Campbell from 2015 till about 2017. Felt it was time to leave the 160th. I had some weird incidents happen. Had this crazy pink-haired girl pull a gun on me and shoot at me going down the interstate, and hit my head really hard riding, and that just kind of, you know, sent me off like being on center mentally and emotionally for a little bit, and I just wasn't doing well, and I needed to leave 160th. So I moved out here to Yuma, Arizona. I work at the military free fall school as a medic, and I would say that moving out here to spend my last 3 years on active duty has been the best decision I've made in the military. It's allowed me time to decompress, to focus on myself, and to really start Ride It Out. Like, I initially tried to start Ride It Out back in 2015. I did a trip from Kentucky to Whistler and back with the intentions on, starting this Ride It Out thing and really trying to spread the word, but I just wasn't in the right place emotionally, and just wasn't like ready. I found out while I was on that trip, I just wasn't ready to invest into it. And being out here in Arizona, close to Southern California, where a lot of my really good friends still live, and there's really good mountain biking out here. And Yuma is in the middle of nowhere with nothing, but it's a kind of a good geographical center point. I can get up to Big Bear in 4 hours, be in Flagstaff in 5 hours, Phoenix, Tucson in 2 to 3 hours, and in San Diego in a couple hours. And I've got access to some really awesome trails. So let's get into some mountain bike talk. We now have covered my 20 years of military time. Let's talk about mountain bikes. All right. So the bike I ride, I'm currently riding a 2016 Norco Range, fully DVO equipped. I've got a DVO diamond fork, DVO garnet dropper, and DVO jade coil shock. And DVO happens to be one of the supporters of Ride It Out. So and also with Ride It Out, I want the best equipment for the veterans that I ride with. So I go out to these mountain bike festivals and races and kind of grip and grin with the industry to try to get the best equipment I can find for our vets. If I'm gonna ride it, it means I believe it's good enough for our vets. All right, so back to my bike. Fully DVO equipped, race face cranks, race face stem, race face handlebars. Just got set up with some rev grips, and so far I am digging the heck out of those things. I wasn't all about the hype initially, but I keep on seeing people with them. So at Big Bear this past weekend, they had their booth set up. I met the owner, Brandon, and he threw a set of grips on my bike, and I went and rode Miracle Mile and just let her fly through all the brake bumps, and amazing grips. I don't wear gloves, and I really like how they feel. All Shimano components and Maxxis tires on Spank rims with i9 hubs. I think we've already discussed what type of trails I like to ride. I like the steep technical stuff. I like to get out there and just explore. I used to be downhill only, but in the places I've lived, I've had to learn how to pedal, learn how to appreciate pedaling. So I really like getting out and doing some long enduro rides, I guess you should say. Earn your turn type of stuff. I'm still all about getting a shuttle or taking a lift, but if I've got to pedal to the top of the mountain, I'm not against that. Some of my most memorable experiences mountain biking are, of course, my first time at Whistler with Matt, and he towed me down Upper Freight Train, and I hit my first big tabletop on a downhill bike, and the audible "oh shit," that was fucking awesome. As I landed and didn't die, I think I was hooked on that jump line stuff since then. So that's definitely one of them. Last year, I did a month-long trip from here in Yuma, Arizona, up to Whistler, actually kicking off Ride It Out for real. And there's so many memories made during that trip, and I can't just name one, so I'm just going to say that whole month is a memorable experience, one of those key memories. And just getting out there. First time at Windrock, that's a life changer. Definitely first time riding with all the Windrock guys. Upper windmill to lower windmill, that if you think you know how to mountain bike, go out and take upper windmill to lower windmill. That'll definitely humble you a little bit. Um, yeah, I'd say those are the top three experiences. Best bike I've ever owned is the bike I'm on now. My Norco Range is it just fits me. I can't say it other way. I've tried riding other bikes, and I love the way this range feels. And I'm gonna ride it until the wheels fall off. Um, so let's talk about the future of Ride It Out. I would like Ride It Out to be nationwide. You know, I just recently, through the Facebook page, started this regional ambassador program where I'm trying to get other active duty or veteran mountain bikers out on trails, out riding with vets under the Ride It Out banner. And, you know, what I'm all about with Ride It Out, you know, having them help me spread the word. We're very DIY, very punk rock, very grassroots at the moment. But I would like for Ride It Out to pick up by the time I'm out of the Army, to where I'm going around traveling the United States, just riding with vets everywhere. You know, that's kind of how I envision it. Is I'm living out of a camper van, and I'm in a new area of the United States like every week, riding with vets and just networking and making sure that our veteran community that wants to mountain bike has the best gear available. You know, and once I get these guys equipped with their gear, I give them, you know, it's like a mission thing. You know, we give them a mission to accomplish. You know, like Pacific Northwest guys. Hey, your mission, get up to Whistler, go ride, and Ride It Out. Maybe Ride It Out buys them their lift ticket. You know, something like that's what I want to do. I've been fortunate to have the paycheck to be able to afford this hobby, but there's guys out there that can't, and I want to bring them into that fold. You know, bring them into the mountain bike fold. You know, and I got a couple guys now that I'm working with helping get bikes. And the way that I want to do this with getting guys bikes is, you know, Ride It Out is going to give up to $1,000 towards the purchase of a bike. And, you know, we'll network with the local bike shop. We'll talk to them and try to get them testing out some bikes. You know, I got a guy in Tennessee and a guy in Oregon right now that are working through local bike shops. Got them some gear through Fly Racing and through Omega Bikes in Oceanside. And, you know, I got them the gear, just got to get them the bike now. So if you hear this and you know, are passionate as I am about mountain biking, you know, go to my website. You know, it'll be in the show notes. Go to the website, rideitoutmtb.com, and donate, because that's how all this is. It's my paycheck, all my extra cash, all my money that I make goes into it, and donations. That's the only way I've been doing this thing since I decided to go legit with it. And sure, I'm in the poorhouse every 2 weeks, but just having guys tell me thank you, that I watched your video on YouTube, or I liked your page and I saw some post you made, it keeps me going. You know, just those little encounters I have where I'm at a bike park and someone's like, "Hey, Clayton, Ride It Out guy, what's up?" You know, and you know, I don't mean you any disrespect. I may have rode with you, but my brain's upside down and backwards in my head from repetitive impacts and helicopter crashes and all that stuff. So don't be offended if I just give you that kind of 100-yard stare, but it's just how it is sometimes. But it's cool that I'm getting this outreach, and I'm starting to, you know, get recognition. Yeah, I just want to keep it growing. I want it to become the biggest and best thing I can possibly make it with Veterans Adventure Group. Just, you know, nationwide effort. If I could get every veteran on a bike, you know, that's what I would love. You know, every veteran on a mountain bike. This past weekend, we were in Big Bear for the SoCal Enduro and the first round of the Snow Summit Downhill Series, and I got to lead a train of veterans down a hill. That was one of the best things. I was grinning from ear to ear. Yeah, sure. I had to put the ego aside and ride at a pace for everybody. I couldn't just like take off, pedal, and ghost everyone. Um, but man, just being able to know that I had 6 veterans on bikes behind me, that's probably the number one experience mountain biking so far. Yeah, it was down Turtle at Snow Summit, but man, that was fun. Just I've watched that GoPro video of my GoPro facing backwards with everyone following me. I've watched that video 5 times. I can't stop watching it. Just to know a year ago it was just me and my dog and my pickup truck, and almost a year later, I've got 5, 6 veterans of all different skill levels of mountain biking following me down a trail. Memories like that and incidents like that are going to keep me going until I can't ride anymore or the wheels fall off my bike, and then I'll probably be hitting up some bicycle manufacturer begging for a bike. Shoot, let's wrap it up there. I want to, in closing, give a big thanks to all of the individual supporters that are out there on the page making donations. Check me out on Facebook. It's facebook.com/WriteItOutFTW, and it's not fuck the world. It's Forever Two Wheels. My website, www.writeitoutmtb.com. So write it out, Mike Tango Bravo.com. You can go there, see what we're about, check out all of our supporters, and let's see, I'm going to go there right now, actually, so I don't forget any of our supporters, or as I call them, enablers. All right, so first off, Omega Bicycles in Oceanside. Mark is the owner of Omega Bikes. He's been my friend since 2002, 2003, back when I was riding BMX. He's been my go-to bike shop since then, and anytime I'm in SoCal, I try to go say hi to him, give him a hug, tell him I love him, and hang out at his shop just like the old days. Like I was there a couple weeks ago and just sat on the old picnic table in the back just because, shoot, that nostalgia, that memory lane type stuff. You got to take a big hit of nostalgia every once in a while. Sonoran Cycles in Yuma, Arizona. Sean that works there, he's helped us out a lot here for a local bike shop in Yuma. Goop Industries, Thomas at Goop. If you want to get some tire sealant and fix kind of like a fix-a-flat for your bike all in one, go check out that Goop Industries. I was on the Arizona Trail Race. I did the Arizona Trail Race 300, and so I think the first one I used, the valve stem was clogged, and it shot the goop all over me and not into the tire. But the air did go in, so it did inflate the tire, and I had to use my second can of goop to actually get the sealant in there to get it to work. So the stuff works. It's basically like fix a flat for your bike. It comes with a cool little retaining system. You can strap it right to your frame, and it's with you right there when you're going down the trail. Black Squirrel Manufacturing. Paul at Black Squirrel does all my T-shirts and the kick-ass Ride It Out jerseys. Of course, Fly Racing. I met those guys. I first reached out to them back in December. Bruce Schofield, the mountain bike manager, he sent me gear to give to my guy in Tennessee. I actually got to meet Bruce at the Sedona Mountain Bike Festival. And awesome guy, 100% behind supporting veteran riders. Jason Renoa with the SoCal Enduro Series. I wouldn't have had such an epic time this past weekend up in Big Bear if it wasn't for you allowing me to set up my little Walmart 10x10 tent at your events and get some, get traction through the SoCal Enduro Series. I'm an ambassador for Loam Coffee, so thanks to them for keeping me fueled and stoked in the morning. And DVO Suspension. I got to meet Bryson while at the Sedona Mountain Bike Festival, and I had this whole big like spiel planned to tell him, and he's like, "Oh, vets on mountain bikes, dude, we're in. We're in. Don't even worry about it. We're in." So DVO, you guys helped me out. You got my bike, my hardtail going, so I could do that Arizona trail race, and best suspension, best customer service in the industry. Words can't describe how good their stuff is. Rev Grips just got set up with Rev Grips, so thanks to Brandon at Rev Grips. Chris over at Ascendant Gear, I met Chris in Temecula, riding at Vale Lake. He told me he watched one of my videos on YouTube and was inspired and moved by it. And so, iron sharpens iron. He's an awesome dude. He's got a great family, and he's got this lifestyle clothing brand called Ascendant Gear. Rise above, defy gravity, and ascend it. Get up there, get off your butt, get out and just send it. Just get up there and get to the top. Everyone at Veterans Adventure Group, I get low down sometimes. We all have our struggles. There's probably been 5-6 times I've thought about just scrapping, ride it out, blowing it in place, and walking away from it, and just rather ride for myself and ride to have fun. But something always happens. Something comes along that keeps me going. And Justin, the president of Veterans Adventure Group, he's been my sounding board for quite a bit of it. So when you listen to this, man, thanks. Personal thanks to you. Personal thanks to everybody else that's part of the Veterans Adventure Group leadership. And thanks to everybody, the almost 600 followers and likes on the YouTube page, and anyone that listens to this, anyone that has donated a penny to Write It Out so far, thank you. I'm trying to make the most of every dollar you guys give me by, getting gear at, the best prices I can find for guys. You name it. I'm trying to make every dollar stretch as far as I can. And this podcast, I'm hoping, can be one more outlet to, get our message out there and let a veteran's story be heard. Because, not only is riding your bike therapy, but getting out there and sharing your story and talking about it is therapy. I've done 2 podcasts where I've shared some personal experiences and how mountain biking has helped me, and to know that that's out there in the ether for the public to hear, it's actually kind of refreshing to get some of that stuff off your shoulders and some of that weight off you. And all right, before I keep rambling on, I could probably go on all night. Let's wrap this one up. So, like I say in all my videos, when life gets hectic and your brain gets all cluttered and clogged and you get all stressed out, remember, just get on your bike and ride it out.